Everyone on the internet is going to tell you to avoid US banking. They spread fear and doubt about US banks, jump on any opportunity to talk about US bank failures, and they scream about horrible customer support at big box US banks. And guess what? They're not entirely wrong. US banks fail. Wells Fargo has horrible customer support. And if you choose the wrong US bank, you're going to run into trouble sending and receiving money. But there's one industry secret that no one else is going to tell you. And that's when you open accounts with one of the right US banks, they can offer massive benefits, especially to foreign non-residents. So in this video, I'm going to give you 6 reasons why you should consider banking in the United States, including a few eyebrow-raising statements that might stir up some controversy. If we haven't met before, my name is Chris. I'm the head of banking relationships here at GlobalBanks. We help investors and entrepreneurs navigate cross-border banking and financial services. And that includes helping foreigners open personal and business accounts in the US. All right, so to kick things off, the first benefit of US banking that I want to talk about is access to solid transactional accounts. So why transactional banking? Well, if you're not a US citizen, we generally suggest banking outside of the US for both premier and private banking. And the simple reason for this is that there are better options for foreigners in other countries when you're looking at premier and private banking. Of course, if you are a US citizen residing in the US, that's a different story. But again, we're only talking about foreign non-residents here. And speaking of foreigners, it's hard to beat a US bank account that you can open remotely with relatively low deposits and low fees. This is also true for business banking, both in terms of US LLCs owned and operated by foreign non-residents, as well as foreign and offshore companies, which can also open US bank accounts 100% remotely for relatively low deposits and with low fees. But there is one drawback related to transactional accounts in the US, and that's a lack of foreign currency support. Fortunately, the second benefit that I'm going to share with you, along with benefit number 4, they're going to offer solutions to solve any foreign currency problems that you might run into in the US, and they're going to do it in a fast and inexpensive way. And so benefit number 2 is access to US credit cards. Now, before you say accessing credit cards isn't a benefit, just hear me out. US credit cards are easily the most lucrative in the world, giving you travel rewards that are typically 10 times more valuable than non-US cards. A number of US cards also offer 0 foreign transaction fees, and they don't mark up foreign currency conversions. That means you won't pay extra when using your card abroad, which isn't the case with cards from most other countries. Lastly, as a foreign non-resident with a US credit card, you can also establish a US credit history, which means you can qualify for other financing products as well, which I'm going to dig into in a second. But before I do, if you have any interest in banking content like this, do me a favor, hit the like button so we know we should keep making more videos like this for you in the future. Now, the third benefit might surprise you, and that's because it's access to US mortgages to buy US real estate as a foreign non-resident. Again, I just want to remind you, I'm talking about US banking for foreign non-residents without a US tax identification number, so no SSN, no ITIN. And yes, these folks can qualify for US mortgages. And this includes mortgages across the entire United States. And in a lot of cases, these mortgages can be based solely on the rental income of the property that you want to buy. So that means there's no need to qualify on an income basis. It's kind of crazy when you compare that to the mortgage options that are available in most other countries. And this is just another reason why US banking stands out compared to other jurisdictions, especially for foreign non-residents. Switching gears now, benefit number 4, it's all about technology. And again, this is going to help you solve any of the foreign currency problems or FX fee concerns that you might have before opening US accounts. But before digging in, I just want to point out that we actually think the US is far behind Europe and parts of Asia when it comes to fintech regulation. And that's really a shame because it's a disservice to both the consumers and the businesses that are trying to innovate in the fintech space. But putting that aside for a second, when it comes to being able to access fintech platforms, the US does have some interesting options available. Yes, most US fintech platforms are geared towards US residents and do require an SSN in order to open accounts, but there are a lot of options for non-residents that don't have these sorts of restrictions. And what we're really talking about here, it's access to low-cost international transfer platforms and low-deposit digital banking. Interestingly, many of these options are geared towards foreign non-resident US LLCs, and they can be opened online with 0 or very low deposits, usually between $0 and $5,000. I'm talking about platforms like Wise, Mercury, Relay, etc., etc. And if you have a US LLC and you're in need of a US bank account, these are suitable options to start with for transactional banking. Of course, foreign non-resident US LLCs can also open accounts with brick and mortar US banks 100% remotely, and the deposits, they're actually not that much higher than what you'll see at some of the fintech platforms. If you're interested in exploring those options, visit us at globalbanks.com/USA to learn more about your options. All right, so the fifth benefit I'm going to dig into is low deposit requirements. Basically, it doesn't take a lot of money to open and keep open accounts in the United States. Now, we help clients open accounts around the world, so we get to see the kind of deposits that banks are demanding in basically every country, or at least every country that's worth considering from a banking perspective. And when compared to other banking hubs, surprisingly, US banks, they tend to come in at the lower end of the requirements, typically between $10,000 and $25,000 for foreign non-residents looking to open personal accounts remotely. This drops to between $500 and $2,500 for in-person opening, depending on the bank. And businesses, they typically need to deposit between $25,000 and $250,000 for remote opening with brick and mortar banks, though as I mentioned, there are also no and low deposit options for US LLCs, and these include both digital banking and brick and mortar options if you can show up in person. Of course, deposits, they're going to vary depending on the risk rating of the customer, but the point is banks are accessible and they're competitive in terms of deposits when you compare them to international options. And that brings us to the final benefit that foreign non-residents can unlock through US banks, which is the ability to open accounts 100% remotely. And I want to make this really clear. I am not talking about opening remotely through a third party, a power of attorney, appointing a manager to your company, or any other type of signatory. And I'm not talking about opening remotely with fintech platforms or digital banks, though if that's something that you're interested in, you should go ahead and open those accounts because they do provide a suitable backup option. What I am talking about is opening with real brick and mortar banks in the United States as a foreign non-resident, or for a foreign non-resident US LLC, or even for a foreign or offshore company. I've already covered opening accounts for these three profiles in recent videos, so if you fit into any of these categories, make sure you go and give those videos a watch. I'm also going to share one of those videos with you in a second so you can get access to the steps and the specific banks that you can access in the US as a foreign non-resident. But the point is, while most of the world is moving towards in-person account opening, some US banks still allow foreign non-residents to open accounts 100% remotely. And if you're looking for a US bank account that unlocks the benefits I just mentioned, check out globalbanks.com/USA to see how you can start opening accounts. And if you'd like me to tell you how to go about opening US bank accounts 100% remotely, you can click this video to see the two types of banks that you can access, along with the exact steps and challenges you're going to face as a foreigner when opening in the United States. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.